Good evening, folks. I did my weekly discussion on the Southern battles. This was where the British came in through Savannah, Georgia, defeated the Patriots in Savannah, went through Charleston, South Carolina, Camden, South Carolina, and they met Brigadier General Daniel Morgan in the what they call the cow pen, South Carolina. It was a large cow pasture, also a crossroad for supplies and whatnot for both forces. This was along the Thickety Creek, and the battle took place. It was about an hour-long battle. It took place on January 17th, 1781. This was a decisive battle because the defeat of General or Colonel Tarleton signified a change in Patriot forces. This pushed the British Army north. They went into North Carolina and then into Virginia, and reconnected with General Cornwallis, and he was able to restructure his troops there. However, this was just as much of a miniature civil war between the North and South Carolina folk who were still loyal to the British Crown, and then you had those that were still or that were loyal to the Patriot cause. So you had volunteers pretty much fighting for both sides of the forces. However, official counts were that there was about 2,200 official soldiers that fought in the battle, just over 1,000 American forces, and about 1,150 British forces. However, about 80% of the British forces were either wounded, killed, or missing or captured. A lot of that, they were defeated because they were worn down. The way that Daniel Morgan really beat them down, really defeated their morale, and a lot of them just fled. And then the ones that were killed, Daniel Morgan buried because he was afraid that there would be repercussions from General Cornwallis. So as both forces moved north, Morgan went and reconnected with General Greene in the North Carolina area, and they were pushing or trying to force the Royals into a certain path. And then you had what was left of Tarleton's forces meeting up with Cornwallis. And at this point, there was one little minor skirmish that took place that it was more the British were considered winners because Green forces pulled out of the region. However, the British forces took a lot of casualties during that time, and then shortly after that, you had General Washington defeating Cornwallis at Yorktown. Some of the significance that came from the Battle of Cowpen was that Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton, when he was fighting in the southern region against the Waxhaws, he didn't give them the opportunity to surrender or quarter. So what that was termed as Tarleton's quarters. So the significance of that is because of the way that the Patriots were treated in the southern campaigns, General Washington in turn did it in the northern campaigns, and then finally when it was time to surrender, Washington pulled the Tarleton quarters and wouldn't accept the surrender from a lower ranking member. He had to have General Cornwallis. So not a huge, however, they were minor skirmishes. However, they had significant impacts on the remainder of the war. Of course, this was in early 1781, and the final battle lasting in October of 1781. So a lot of movement parts. However, it helped demoralize the British Army, and that's pretty much when they realized that they had been done and that they were on the losing end of a very long battle. Thank you. Have a good one.